Okay guys, so the majority of the time when I'm doing audio work, I am in the studio, which is why the majority of these videos you see me here, because this is the studio. But every now and then I do get the opportunity to do live engagements, live gigs. Most commonly when I'm doing that, I'm doing front of house. Every now and then I'm brought along on a supporting role. Maybe I'm doing monitors or just helping set up or, just kind of consulting. But usually I'm doing front of house engineering. And this past weekend, I had the opportunity to do 2 different engagements. One was really, I was there to do that. And another was where I, was in the space. And so, things needed to be done, so I did them. One of the engagements, the main one, I was setting up the room completely from scratch. The other one, I was not doing that. Things were already in place, but it made me think about 5 different things that as a live audio engineer, you are going to need that are really going to help you. And these are not expensive things. The most expensive thing out of these 5 things is like $30, but these are 5 like little hacks, little things that you're gonna wanna have with you at all times if you're going to do a live gig. So let's get into it. Let's go.
McCray Music.
All right, friends, how are you doing? Are you blessed? I hope you're doing well. I'm richly blessed. I pray that you are as well. Before we get into our list of things, why don't you please take a moment and hit like on this video? And if you feel like you want to, which of course you should feel that way, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to this channel as well? We've got more and more content coming out, and you want to know when things are happening. And go back and watch some of the stuff that you missed, right? Go on back and watch some of those older videos, because there are some things there that I think can help you as well in your audio and your music journey. All right, now let's get into it. 5 things that you are going to want to have. Now, I have to start by saying I used to make fun of my brother and good friend Selwyn Arnold. Card up in the top. Matter of fact, there'll be a link in the description to his YouTube channel. He's doing a lot of amazing things right now. He has a major focus going on with iPad, and using Logic for iPad and all the cool things you can do with that. So go check his channel out. But I used to make fun of him because he would always show up to our engagements. He would always show up to stuff with just a bunch of cables and just extra stuff just in his book bag or in his car. And I'm like, dude, like, why you got all this stuff? And I have to repent, because I have now become that guy. He was right the whole time, because when you start going around, you start running into common things that places don't have that you are going to need. So let's get into our list. First of all, we have 2 honorable mentions. 2 honorable mentions. And the reason why these are honorable mentions is because these are for very specific situations. But especially if you are doing a lot of church engagements, you are probably going to want to have these 2 things. The first thing is just a regular, plain old, regular smegular USB cable, right? This is, now forget the technical term for this, because I haven't taught computer A+ or Net+ classes in quite some time. But this is like the old school USB cable that you would use for a printer, right? Where the one end is like this weird, I don't know if you can see that real good. The one end is like this weird, almost like a U shape, and then the other is the typical flat end, right? So if I hold it this way, you can kind of see, right? Like so, all right? The reason why you want to have one of these is because, like I said, especially if you're doing church gigs, most churches are going to have a Behringer X32. And if you are having a situation where you're dealing with live streaming, or you are trying to record service and you want to use the X32 as a audio interface, you need that cable to be able to do so. Also, you'll run into situations sometimes with musicians where they want to use if you have like a motif or one of these bigger synthesizers, you want to be able to connect that to like an iPad or, do some weird MIDI stuff, and they take that kind of cable. So that's honorable mention number 1. Honorable mention number 2 in the same vein is an audio interface. I would recommend, and this is the one thing that is more than $30, obviously. This is, I think, about like $150 or $200. But if you can get your hands on a Scarlett 2i2 interface, very simple audio interface, 2 inputs on the front that can be TRS or XLR. And then you have a headphone output in the front, and then you also have the 2 quarter-inch outputs in the back. That is, again, also for very specific situations. If you are dealing with live streaming, where you need to be able to get audio out to the live stream, that is a very good tool to use for that. Or if you're recording and you need a way to monitor, right? You just run into specific cases where you might need that. But then also in like a church or a live band environment, oftentimes you have situations where people are trying to send out like stems or things like that, right? People are running Ableton, people are running Logic and stuff like that, and they might need to be able to send information out, right? Or maybe you need to capture that information to record. Having that audio interface can be very useful to you. All right, so those are the 2 honorable mentions. Okay. Let's get into the main list. Thing number 1, and these are not in particular order of importance. These are just the order in which I wrote them down, all right? Thing number 1 is not something that you would buy at all. It is information. It is a channel listing, right? A channel list. I was setting for the main engagement I was doing this weekend, and you're seeing footage right now of me setting up the X32. I was setting up everything from scratch, right? Having a channel list and knowing kind of just from even a planning perspective, what kind of things you're going to need to account for is absolutely crucial, and it's going to save you a ton of time. Oftentimes when we go into environments, we lose a lot of time in sound check because we're having to set stuff up. We're having to name channels. We're having to figure out stuff. And the reason why I said channel listing and not just input listing is because we need to know outputs too, right? So if you are setting something up like I was doing, then that's great because you can do a lot of that work before you get to the gig, okay? But if you're going into an environment where things are already set up, like I said, you oftentimes can lose a lot of time in sound check trying to figure out what the signal flow is, right? You spend a lot of time trying to figure out, all right, how is stuff getting to the stage monitors? Okay, which channel is that? All right, how is things getting to in-ears, right? All these different kind of things. So if you can have that information either by creating it yourself, if you're setting things up ahead of time, or by just having just a quick phone call with whoever the setup or audio engineer or point person is for the venue you're going to kind of just get a very quick rundown of what is happening on the board, what's going on in the output section, what's going on with your inputs, so you can write that stuff down and then know in your mind, if you do have to set stuff up when you get there, what kind of things the engagement is going to need, so you can go ahead and set those things up. I was able to do that for this engagement, and I'm telling you, it saved me so much time because everything was pre-set up. Got there, plugged the X32 in, loaded it up, and we were good to go. I could just tell everyone, I had some lovely young ladies who were assisting me, could tell them where to plug things in at, what was going out of what, and everything was good to go. Okay, so that is number 1. Number 2 is this guy right here. This is an aux, well, people would call this an aux cable, but this is a very specific type of aux cable. This is what we call really technically it's a Y cable, but what it is a stereo TRS or 1/4 inch, right, to a 1/8 inch, okay? So stereo 1/4 inch, like so, to 1/8 inch. I'm gonna put links in the description for all these things. You can buy this from Amazon. It is very inexpensive. Now, the reasons why you're gonna wanna have this are, first of all, just to be able to play stuff, right? For pre-show, pre-service, post-show, post-service, what have you. If there's tracks that people need to play, you have different artists, right? You want to be able to have that, all right? Because, and the reason why I like doing the TRS as opposed to RCA cables is because most boards, you're going to more easily be able to plug things in using that 1/4 inch or that TRS, right? So that's one thing. The other reason why you're going to want to have that is a lot of places, if they're live streaming, are going to be using the ATEM Mini switcher, and that thing takes audio inputs through an 1/8 inch cable. And so you're going to want to have this stereo cable to be able to get a stereo signal out from your board and into that one input on the ATEM Pro Mini. All right, so that is very important. And again, links in the description for all these things, very inexpensive. All right, next thing is something like this guy right here. I'm telling you right now, this is a router. All right, put the little antennas up. Whee! This is a router. And you say, Ed, this is an audio gig. Why do I need a router? And you're probably seeing footage on screen right now of me setting up this router. The reason why you want to have that is because 9 times out of 10 these days, you're dealing with a digital board, okay? And 9 times out of 10, the location of that board is not going to be ideal for actually mixing your gig, right? Unless you are on like a professional tour or something like that, or going into a space where you have control to set things up exactly the way you want to. Oftentimes the board is not going to be ideally in the sweet spot in mixing position at the back of the room, in between your main front of house speakers, where you can hear everything that is going on properly, right? It might be in a room, especially if you're dealing with a lot of churches. They have a sound room and they put the main front of house mixing board in that room, which isn't going to help you at all when it comes to mixing. So the point is, we need to be able to control our board remotely, right? And the majority, if not all, of digital boards do have some kind of software that you can use to control your board remotely. A lot of places will not have a router set up, or they might not know what the password, the Wi-Fi is, or just, so to avoid all of that, get you a router, all right? In the engagement I was doing this weekend, because I do not have a X32 stage box, right, where I could run an Ethernet cable and have the X32 at the back of the room and be able to run a long Ethernet cable up to the front and plug everything up there. And I also did not have a long snake. I had to be in a closer proximity to the front stage so that we could plug everything in locally to the X32, which means the X32 was over on the side of the room, which was not ideal for mixing. So you get a router, load up my iPad with the X32 software, and during the service, I was able to stand at the back of the room and mix everything. During sound check even, you're able to be, because, if it's just you and you're doing front of house and monitors, right, you're going to need to be able to make adjustments to monitor mixes and things like that during sound check. And I don't want to be running back and forth from the stage to the mixer and all that kind of stuff. So having that router and being able to control stuff from your mobile device, from your iPad, is absolutely crucial, right? So you got to have that. I've been in environments where I wish I did, and so I got this. Get you a small router and it's going to be a godsend, I'm telling you. All right, next, what are we on? Number 4? Yes, number 4. All right, this is another cable that you're going to want to get. This is a TRS or 1/4 inch to XLR male cable. All right, this is a TRS to XLR male cable. You can get cables like this from Sweetwater. Sweetwater is really great. They actually have a cable builder on their website where you can go in and you can customize cables and say what you want on the one end and what you want on the other end, right? So you're gonna wanna do that. Link in the description for that as well. The reason why you wanna have that is because when you're in an environment where you're dealing with musicians, where especially keyboards, all right, if you're dealing with a guitar amp or a bass cabinet or bass amp, they're gonna have an XLR output most commonly on those amps, okay? But you're gonna run into situations where people are going to be sending you or are gonna have a TRS outputs on their equipment, especially these days, where you have musicians that are running a lot of stems, right? Or, they have a laptop, they have 1 or 2 keyboards, and they're sending them into a sub mixer in the front so they can control stuff. And then they're sending you the output from that sub mixer. Oftentimes the output from that sub mixer is going to be a TRS output. Now, the problem with that is you most likely are not going to want to come into your console or into your stage box with TRS. You're going to want to come in XLR, right? And if you don't have a direct box that is going to convert from TRS on the one end to XLR on the other, you're going to be stuck. And so this cable right here is going to help you, because you can go boom into whatever their output is, right, with the TRS, and then you have an XLR male on this end, which means guess what you can do? You can connect XLR female to this end, and then you can go into your stage box or into your right into your board as an XLR input, right? Fantastic. Having that cable gonna save you, right? Because you're gonna run into those issues all the time when you're dealing with musicians or when you're dealing with people coming out of an audio interface. Like I showed you on the Scarlett, the outputs of that are TRS outputs, are 1/4-inch outputs, right? And so having that to be able to convert that from TRS to XLR is really gonna make life a lot easier. All right, lastly, number 5 is having adapters, right? Specifically for headphones, first of all, right? This little guy right here. You get them all the time. Anytime you buy headphones and stuff, you get these, right? Just take them, put them to the side. I got a whole bunch of them just in my studio, on my desk in a little cup, right? Just in various places where you have this. You probably want to have multiple ones right here. This one is just kind of flush, but then I've noticed a lot of them now, you get headphones that you have to screw in to the adapter, and so you want to have those as well for obvious reasons, right? If you need to use headphones for monitoring and things like that, you want to have that so that you can do that. Pretty much all of your boards are going to require that adapter. So you're going to want to make sure you have that, or else you can't hear anything and you're going to be mixing by faith. And then the other one that you might not consider is something like this little guy right here. This is a microphone stand adapter, right? Now, the reason you want to have this is because sometimes you run into these weird mic stands, right? Especially with churches where you have kind of a hodgepodge of equipment and stuff that they've used over the years. Sometimes you'll run into these weird mic stands where it's the smaller end on the mic stand, and your actual mic holder requires it's a larger hole. And so what you do is you just pop this on top of the you can screw this right on top of the mic stand, and then you can put the holder right on there, and then it will actually work. All right, so these are little things that you can have. This is stuff that you can have in your book bag and whatever you bring with you all the time. I'm telling you, you're going to run into situations where you need these things. And I'm sure if we keep going, there are lots of other things you could have, but it's kind of neater when you have a specific number, so I decided to say 5, right? But you know, lots of other stuff, right? Things like stage tape or gaffer's tape that you might need to have, Sharpies for labeling stuff, right? We can go down the list, right? Lots of different things that you might want to have, but I think those are 5 things that are going to really, really help you out as a live audio engineer and get you out of some pinches so that you can get away from, you know, setting stuff up and get back to what you're there to do, which is actually dialing in a great mix for your event, so everyone can enjoy whatever it is that's going on. All right, so I hope that helped you. Again, all stuff you can get under 30 bucks. All those links are in the description for all of the things. All right. Again, please leave a like on this video. Please feel free to subscribe so that you can know what else is coming. And get down in the comment section. Any other live audio engineers out there, if you have other things, let's add to our list, right? We started with 5, right? With 2 honorable mentions. But if you got other stuff that you're like, hey, Ed, what about this? Throw those things in the comment section so that we can all learn and grow and be better at our craft of audio engineering. All right, looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video. All right, everyone take care. Peace.